Pascoe Vale.
Thank you, Acting Chair. I speak to rise in support of the Transport Legislation Amendment Bill of 2023. This is a bill that builds on the Victorian Labor Government's strong commitment to road safety and the delivery of the road safety strategy through a number of new measures, initiatives and reforms, including through enabling the conduct of a world-leading research trial into medicinal cannabis and driving, further improving road safety by protecting amenity and accessibility in public spaces in relation to e-scooter and e-bicycle share schemes. And the bill provides a number of other omnibus-type measures, but one in particular that I'll draw upon towards the end of my remarks is around the consistency around transport legislation by aligning bus driver accreditation under the Bus Safety Act of 2009 with the accreditation of commercial passenger vehicles under the Commercial Passenger Vehicle Scheme. Acting Speaker, as I said in my first speech to Parliament, with so many young families and elderly residents now living across Pascoe Vale, Coburg and Brunswick West, improving road and transport safety across my community will continue to be a high priority. And Acting Speaker, Victoria has always had a strong track record in leading with life-saving road safety policies. In 1970, we led the world in becoming the first jurisdiction to introduce mandatory seatbelts. In 1976, we were the first state to introduce random breath testing. In the late 1980s, Victoria again was a world leader in introducing speed cameras. In 1986, I'd like to point out that the Victorian Parliament, with the support of both major parties in this place, passed the Transport Accident Act of 1986, creating the TAC from the 1st of January 1987. In 2004, Victoria was also the first state to introduce mandatory roadside drug tests, and in 2008, Victoria introduced its graduated licensing system. These initiatives have found time and time again to have saved countless lives and improved the state's road safety standards. And by continuing to build on these historic road safety reforms and also by building on the investments that have also been made by the Victorian Labor Government across my community since 2014, we can continue to help create a safer commute for transport workers, motorists, bus drivers, pedestrians, cyclists and vulnerable road users so locals can get home sooner, safer and more sustainably. And locally, just some highlight projects I'd like to draw to the House's attention to include the construction of the game-changing Metro Rail Tunnel, which will provide for increased capacity along the Upfield and Craigieburn rail lines, the removal of the 4 dangerous level crossings along the Upfield line via Coburg at Moreland Road, Reynard Street, Munro Street and Bell Street, which have been accompanied with a world-class active transport, cycling, walking and open space corridor, the construction of 2 new landmark train stations at Moreland and Coburg Station, which when combined with the level crossings are the catalyst for the revitalisation of central Coburg, Upfield and the Sydney Road corridors. Improving tram services as well along Route 1 on Nicholson Street, Route 19 on Sydney Road and Route 58 on Melville Road, including through the introduction of low-floor and accessible trams, as well as the recent new and improved timetabling, Acting Speaker, for tram routes 1 and 58, with services to be boosted on Friday nights with the tram every 15 minutes until 10 p.m. to make it easier for residents and workers to access the CBD. The release of the Victorian Government's new Melbourne Tram Plan will also help provide the ongoing pathway to ensure we continue to make our city's tram network more accessible, more technologically advanced and more efficient in the years to come. The development of a modern sustainable bus network across the north through Melbourne's Northern Bus Review, which we are working through to help develop a more modern, faster, reliable and environmentally sustainable network for local commuters across the north. The Victorian Government's $11.9 million investment to finally remove the dangerous roundabout at the Sussex Street and Gaffney Street intersection in North Coburg through the installation of traffic lights has continued to improve road and pedestrian safety in the heart of my electorate, which is just at the front of my electorate office. $4.6 million has been delivered to also facilitate the Glenroy to Coburg cycling link via Derby Street to significantly enhance safety for people who ride bikes, pedestrians and motorists. We're also investing $3.7 million.
A point of order. Yes, the member for Evelyn.
Point of order. It is a wide-ranging debate, but I think it's not the take-note motion on the budget. It's actually a specific bill, so I would encourage you on a point of relevance to bring the member back to the bill.
Speak to the bill and continue on. Thank you.
Speaker, I was merely trying to draw on the record that we've been investing locally to improve road safety, which this bill also ties into and which I'll now take the House's attention to. Thank you to the member for Evelyn. In this context,
a second point of order. Yes, the member for Evelyn.
I seek your guidance as to the state of the House.
Let me just... Therefore, I will ask the clerk to ring the bells. Quorum present. I call on the member for Pascoe Vale.
Thank you, Acting Speaker, and thanks for everyone for coming on to have a listen. Look, this bill does build on those commitments, some of those that I did touch on locally, but will continue to help us make the state's roads a lot safer going forward through a number of progressive reforms. And the main purpose of the bill is to continue the government's work in this space, namely through the enabling to conduct of a world-first leading research trial into medicinal cannabis and driving. While this is a road safety challenge, it is also an issue of human rights. We currently have a situation where Victorians are forced to choose between taking prescribed medicinal cannabis to treat medical conditions and being able to drive. This is because it is not legal to drive while there is presence of tetrahydrocannabinol, THC, in a person's system, not whether they are actually impaired at the time of driving the vehicle. Given THC can remain in a person's system for a number of days, Victorians using medicinal cannabis are effectively banned from driving long after they become unimpaired from using this prescribed medication. That is why, to address this situation, it is necessary via the bill to conduct a world-leading research to expand our knowledge of the impairment of medicinal cannabis causes on driving while ensuring the safety of all road users through a closed-loop trial. This will be an Australian first. The reforms in this bill will allow the Minister for Roads and Road Safety, in consultation with other relevant ministers, to designate a road safety research trial and declare that specified provisions of the Road Safety Act of 1986 either do not apply or apply in varied form to trial participants for the purposes of this closed-loop trial. Research trials will also not be limited to the use of medicinal cannabis, and this amendment will allow for the declaration of trials for a range of road safety initiatives. This provides the flexibility in testing the efficacy of a range of other technologies and approaches to further expand the evidence base for future reforms and to continue delivering more road safety improvements in time. Acting Speaker, I've actually spoken to quite a few people in my electorate on the doors and in the community who've actually raised this issue specifically with me and who I know, given the time I have, I won't be able to divulge into their details, but will very much welcome this trial. Acting Speaker, the other major reform contained in this bill is around e-scooters and e-bicycle share schemes and reforms in that space. The use of e-scooters provided under share schemes is proving increasingly popular across Victoria, as we know, with Melburnians in particular taking up the devices in very high numbers. To ensure the safety of e-scooter riders, pedestrians and other road users, the Victorian Government is enabling the use of e-scooters through trials throughout Victoria under certain conditions. E-scooter riders using these devices as part of the trial have been required to follow road safety rules, including the wearing of helmets and restrictions on speed, and where the e-scooters are able to be lawfully ridden. E-scooters, as well as bicycles and e-bikes made available via share schemes, are useful and popular modes of transport for people wanting to travel short distances, whether it be locals or tourists wanting to experience our state and CBD. E-mobility vehicles also help ease congestion. They're an affordable mode of transport and will also help provide first to last mile access on public transport, which I look forward to the member for Melton doing very soon as well when he gets on his e-scooter to his local train station. Whilst these scooters in Victoria have many of these benefits in terms of transport and mobility, there can be issues with shared schemes, e-scooters or bicycles being left on footpaths or in other public places in a way that blocks access and creates tripping hazards and otherwise creates an impact on use on public amenity and ambience in public spaces. That's why the bill will give local governments greater control over e-scooter and e-bicycle share schemes within their local government areas. The reforms will effectively ban the provision of e-scooters and e-bicycle by share scheme operators in a local government area unless the operator has an agreement in place with that relevant council. Acting Speaker, with the time I've got left, I'd also like to draw the House's attention to the reforms around bus licensing and accreditation, which bring it into line with the Commercial Passenger Vehicle Industry Act. And in doing so, I want to acknowledge the work of the Transport Workers Union, the TWU, who are doing a magnificent job in representing so many bus drivers across the state, and a particular shout out to Rav Neat, who drives out of Bundoora and does a great job and a great bus driver he is.